Hello, ladies and gentlemen. This is your girl Mitzi, and this is Mitzi. Let's think about it. Today, we are thinking about Parkinson's disease from caregiver to advocates. I have Sharon's son here, George, who wrote a book and who's trying to advocate for this disease that we're trying to, let's be honest, eliminate because it affects not only that one individual that got diagnosed, but everybody that surrounds them. And I'm so glad that I got George here so that we can really shine a light into the topic. So, George, I have to ask you, when you hear the word Parkinson's disease, what does that make you think of?
Sorry, breaking up. Can you repeat that?
Yeah, when you hear the word Parkinson's disease, what does that make you initially think of right away?
Well, it motivates. Number one, first, I just want to thank you and your audience for your time. It means the world to me and my family and so many out there still battling Parkinson's. It makes me, in a way, sad to hear the word, but also, in a way, inspired. The reason I'm sad is I lost my mother on 1/1/2020 due to Parkinson's disease, and she was my best friend. So part of me, I feel like kind of left with her, and I've never been the same. But it also, in a way, have found the lightness from the dark, which is such incredible, inspiring people like yourself, your audience, and all those still battling the disease. And I basically decided to do all this for 4 years and continuing on just to ensure that others out there know that they're never alone. I don't accept money. I put it like probably 24/7, pour my heart into this, and I do feel that being an advocate for this disease until there's a cure is literally in my blood.
That's really inspiring because when somebody has a death, sometimes it doesn't advocate them or ignite that flame to do something and be an advocate. You know what I mean? Sometimes it just puts them in this state of sorrow and just confusion and just this isolation. And it's nice to know that you were like, you know what? No, my mom wouldn't want this for me. I want to do better for her. And that's why I kind of like was really gun ho to get you on my show because what I know you started this foundation for her, but what made you write this into a book? I mean, you could have
Thank
left it out of at the
you.
foundation portion, you know what I mean? So why write it into a book?
Yeah, we're not a foundation on purpose. So I'm an attorney and I have a lot of experience starting foundation, but I didn't want to be a foundation and nothing wrong with foundation, but that kind of becomes where you have to gain donations and things. And I don't accept money. So I always joke and say, if you send me $1, I'll have to send you $1 back plus a stamp. So then I'm paying a fee. But I didn't want it to be
Okay.
about that. We do have a donation website on a spot, but that actually is from other organizations like the Michael J. Fox Foundation. So if anyone donates, it's in my mother's memory, but it goes to them. So we don't accept money on purpose. And it's pretty odd that in 2024, I get still a lot, it's 1%, but people who just don't think we're real. But the odd thing is that we don't want anything. So how can you, it's like, okay, so you're questioning my realness, but we don't want you to give me anything, except the only goal I have is that no one ever feels alone. Unfortunately, I felt alone as caregiver, and my mother felt alone as someone battling Parkinson's. And Parkinson's affects about 1 million people in the U.S., but 10 million around the world, and it's growing, which is very saddening too. The reason I wrote a book is actually I never wanted to. I've written books before, but not in the area of Parkinson's awareness. But I have a PhD. I'm an attorney and a police officer, reserve officer, and I've done a lot with the criminal justice field, but never in caregiving. But I had written a journal the year of my mother's toughest year, the last year. It was more for myself, kind of just to put down what I was feeling and, the good, the bad, and the ugly, and kind of put it away. But a year or two ago, I was shocked when I thought again there was 1 million people I knew in the U.S., but I was shocked to find out that there were 10 million around the world. So kind of set me apart and decided to myself, said George to myself, George, this isn't about me and my mother anymore only. It's about everybody. So I interviewed 700 people around the world completely free. It's on togetherforsharon.com for free. And it's advocates, it's people going through Parkinson's, it's organizations, and truly people who are inspirational to me that are out there now still battling, fighting until we find a cure. And that those individuals are why I keep doing this. Some nights I don't sleep, like last night. just thinking of ways to kind of advocate. It kind of came to me last night. Why not start a new YouTube channel? Because we have one for Together for Sharon, but a new one. And I think it's so new. I forget. Oh, it's called PD Connection. And it's really, I'm going to have like a different playlist, but of each area, like sports, music, and like art. But it's going to be people who have Parkinson's or advocates, and really just for awareness to show and highlight them. And again, it's free. Anything I do, we don't accept anything in return. So it's exciting and another venture, but essentially I'm hoping we'll find a cure and I can stop, because my mother would be, you'd laugh if you met her today. She would say, George, don't waste your time with all this, spend it with your family. But she didn't raise me to just kind of sit down and go away. She always told me to fight back.
Yeah, I like that. I like how she put that seed in you and you were able to not only just plant it and let it grow within you, that you are now trying to impact that into other people worldwide. I mean, that is truly fascinating. And I like how you also said, excuse me, you also said that you felt alone when you were a caregiver, and you seen that your mom felt alone as well going through this. I mean, if you don't mind me asking, what was there a hard part when you were a caregiver with your mother? I mean, did you, if you don't mind sharing?
Yeah, that was a lot of what the book is, because sometimes it is tough to even talk about, even 4 years later. I'm still grieving, even though it's been a while. Like I said, holidays, I mean, any day. I used to speak to my mother several times a day, and now it's kind of just an empty phone. So that's the hardest part. But I mean, if we just released the book just a few weeks ago. I already wrote two more that are going to come out next year and the year after. They're all for awareness, but I don't mind if you don't mind. I can read one little sentence that on page 28, June 12th, 2019. Again, I kind of documented her last year. Mom called at 7 a.m. and asked me again to take her away so she can live with me. She says that people are harming her, and I should watch the video cameras I installed that day and night to make sure she's safe. Parkinson does horrible things to the mind, and now I see it firsthand. I feel helpless. I'm sickened by not being able to do more. So just kind of like just a minute of a day during the caregiving. And it was just very hard because Parkinson's disease is a movement disorder. So she had stiffness in her left arm. She had it for 15 years, but she lived independently. She was divorced. My parents were divorced. And so for 7 years, she was fine, really. I mean, she had kind of signs that I think she hid from us, that she didn't want to burden the family, she said. But the reason I took over is they took her to a Parkinson's, like a trial, because we ran out of ideas. And I don't blame the hospital, the school, or the doctors, because it's a disease. But she came home one night from the actual trial. I don't know if they drastically changed her medicine, but at 4 a.m. I got called to rush over to her home, and I got there. I found her moving her furniture outside, and she said she was in fear that there were Nazis in her harm, that were going to harm her in her home. And that's when I learned about delusions and hallucinations, and I think they're unfortunately part of the disease from the medications, or she had late onset dementia. So that was like shocking. And that's when I realized, I've never seen this before with anyone, even in my training, but I knew that she needed me by her side. And it's frustrating because there's no cure for Parkinson's, because every individual has a different journey. And we kept being told by 15 expert doctors, you don't die of Parkinson's, you die with it. And my mother was only 69 and had no other medical issues. And in 4 years, she went from walking several miles a week to 2 years of cane, a walker, a wheelchair, and then bedbound, all in just 4 years. And even today, sitting here talking to you, I don't understand, what happened.
Yeah, I don't blame you. I mean, I wouldn't either. That's a very fast process. And it's interesting that you said that Parkinson's doesn't is a disease that doesn't kill you. It dies with you. And my first interaction with somebody with Parkinson's was actually when I was a CNA at an assisted living, and one of my patients had dementia and Alzheimer's, because that was the unit that I was focusing on. And he also had Parkinson's, and he was such a light, you know what I mean? He still kept his energy, he was still there. And it wasn't until the dementia caught up with him, that the delusion got worse, his hand gestures got worse, like he couldn't really control himself as much, and it was hard to see him go. And just thinking about it chokes me up, you know what I mean? Because when you're there experiencing and just dealing with someone in your day to day, I mean, how can you not have that emotional attachment to someone? You know what I mean? So I know exactly what you mean. It's really hard to just see something take over someone that you just care about, you know? And I wonder, do you think that hopefully with research and disease, I mean, and with science evolving and technology evolving, do you hope that the Parkinson's disease will eventually become like polio and measles, where it's not even a topic of discussion anymore?
Yeah, I mean, my dream is not having to do any of this. Obviously, I still want my mother to be remembered, so I'll leave everything up, but I don't want to have to put 24/7 into this because I have a family, work, and things. And but there are days that I think of my mother, think back, and I don't want anyone to have to ever go through what she did or our family. There are big advances in technology. There's now a biomarker from the Michael J. Fox Foundation research, and it's a big needle. They say it's evasive, but it can actually tell an individual they believe if they have Parkinson's, which is great because now you can diagnose it instead of misdiagnosing it and many other great things. The problem is it's very evasive. So they want to take that and put into a regular size blood test like a regular doctor's office would have. But again, that's still kind of far off. So there are things being done, but it takes a lot of awareness. I think the number one problem is awareness. Even writing my book is self-published, not because I wanted to self-publish it, just because it was hard to find anyone to even understand what Parkinson's is or to give me time to want to share it with the world. So I wish I could send it for free everywhere just to get it out there, but it's expensive. Even sending one for free costs me like $25, unfortunately. And then I even wrote to 15 different media outlets, national, local, and statewide 15 times, three separate occasions last year, even for April, which was Parkinson's Disease Awareness Month, and no one even responded. So it's kind of like it's not even you're just battling Parkinson's, you're also battling the world. And the sad
Yeah.
news is in our political climate, it's so crazy, but because they actually talked about Parkinson's and the president, I'm not here to talk about whether he has it or not, but at least it's in the national conversation. Now, at least there's a lot more people aware or wondering what is this Parkinson's. The only national advocate, or in my eyes, my hero has been Michael J. Fox, who I had the opportunity to meet a few times, and he's the famous actor from Back to the Future. He's a hero of mine because he could have kind of went away quietly, and he didn't. He decided to fight back, be public, and raise over $2 billion, for hope for a cure. So it's going to take individuals like that to help. And also, it's people like you and your audience mean the world to me because my goal with these shows is not to reach people who are aware and not to reach people who are already battling, because I do love that community of Parkinson. But if we don't reach everyone else, we're going to be further from a cure.
Exactly. And the more people who are aware of what's going on, then the more people will have that ignition inside that flame ignited. That's the right word I'm looking for. To actually try to solve something and to do something, because when people realize that it's a bigger issue than some small rare disease that only hits 1% of the population, that is different compared to when it's a grand total over billions and millions of people worldwide, not just in the United States. And it's interesting because actually seeing a movie, I forgot the title of it. I wish I would have wrote it down, but there's a movie that actually amplifies Parkinson's disease with Anne Hathaway in it. And she actually has Parkinson's disease and she doesn't have health insurance and she has to pay everything out of pocket. And it just goes through her experience with it. And it's such a touching movie. Oh my goodness, it's a beautiful movie. And
You have to send me the name.
yeah, I'm gonna have to
You
Google
have
it
to send me
after the
the name.
conversation and send to you definitely and put it in notes of this conversation too, because it is a really, really good movie. I seen it years ago and it just came back to my mind now. Man, should I thought it? Sorry about that. No. Anyways,
Okay.
move on. Let's move forward. I have to ask you, if you could tell your younger self anything, what would you tell your younger self if you could?
The one thing I do regret, because I don't have many regrets, is I wish and back then we didn't have this technology. I wish I had a podcast with my mother about just life, not about nothing about Parkinson's, just stories and tales and childhood memories. Because now I have some pictures, and thankfully my aunt is still with us, but there's so many questions I have. Even writing the book had a lot of history of my mother, but doesn't clear up a lot of the questions that I still have. And now I have my own show. It's really just about Parkinson. So, but the shows and the interviews are memories that my kids might be able to, take someday in the future. I just think everybody should have, their own little private show, even just to remember. I mean, I would dream right now to share funny stories to see my mother laugh. And that's really, I thought about that question for about a few years now, and I have no regrets on, what we tried to do for her and what we did do, because there's nothing left. But I wish we had this technology back then. It's so simple today. Everybody's got a show almost, but that's the one thing I can't do or bring back. And even if we had it, I don't think I would have been able to do it, because we didn't have the technology again. But that would have been one beautiful thing to have today. So I would have told my younger self to get on with a show and get some, learn it fast.
Right? I don't blame you, because just having that communication of just talking with your loved one about just your life and just reality, no judgments, just conversing, just listening. You know what I mean? People forget how active listening can really change your understanding and your perspective. You know what I mean? Just by not trying to figure out somebody or judge somebody or conclude them in some category. It's about just listening and just appreciating who they are, the actions that they made, and the steps that took get wherever they are at the moment. And I think more people should have those with their parents, especially if they have a good relationship, because it seems like you had a really good relationship with your mom. I'm working on my relationship with my mom. And I'm very grateful that I still have the opportunity to do so, because once her time is gone, well, then there goes my time with her. So I absolutely understand why this lays heavy in your heart, because nobody wants to lose that person that brought them into this world. It's a hard cup to swallow. You know what I mean? So I appreciate you still striving every single day to keep moving forward, not just for your mother, but for yourself, for your family, for your children, for the people that you impact on a daily basis, because your life matters and you're making it count by not even accepting a donation. Goodness, like you said, nobody would believe that it's real if you don't accept anything. But the reality is some people aren't looking for that, and you're one of those individuals, a rare individual that we need, because we need people to see that not everybody's out for the money. You know what I mean? And we want this sincerely to be resolved and fixed so that it can cure and help somebody out there later down in the years. It would be so amazing if this conversation, or just all the conversations that you have, are able to eventually help down the roads 20 years later, 30 years later, and that we actually find a cure. And 50 years later, it's the first person to be cured, or, it'll be beautiful, because this is a stepping stone. Michael J. Fox Foundation, that's a stepping stone. All of these people that are striving for this change, that's what we need more, more people like yourself that have the drive to make a difference.
I only think the way to achieve that is by everyone working together, whether, if they're diagnosed or not. I've had interesting, I don't have Parkinson's. I'm no longer a caregiver of someone living with it. But I do feel that there's a world of millions and millions of people who lost someone due to the disease, and often they're not remembered, or even like we started today, you mentioned a lot of people move on. Well, the reason is that they don't think they still have a place to have a voice. So that's one thing actually meant a lot to me. This book release was in memory of my mother, but to everyone today fighting and their families. But I have a follow-up book in a few years I'm going to put out, and that's in memory of all those we've lost in their memory. So that's a big area of conversation. I find in my experience now doing this that often they don't want to hear because, we have a beginning, middle, and end of life, but no one wants to talk about the end of life. And also, I could talk about things besides that because we have so many inspiring and positive things, not just that, my mother passed, but so many good things have come from it. Rather have her back any day, but it's interesting. It's a whole new show, a different day, different show, but how grief and things like that are not really dealt with positive, in my opinion, in the U.S. And it's often kind of just thrown in the closet, shut the door, and goodbye. And that's what I feel. Because if we could get all the millions of families that lost a loved one due to Parkinson back in the conversation, I think we would have already had a cure. But it's not happening. And I've met with a lot of resistance too, which is fascinating. Because you think, even though I do it for free and I reach out to so many people, I still get like 1% not want to work together or not. It's really interesting. So my third book, I have another one I'm working on, but that one's going to be very important. It might be controversial and game changing, but hopefully people see it. And I think that after my time is done in the world, hopefully these books are still out there kind of circulating, but without everyone out there, it's not going to be easy because, again, just not enough media attention. And we need a lot more to, find more awareness and research and funding and to end this disease.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. I think that is a very good point, and that's why I talked a lot about grief with a few other my guests that've been on my show, and they spoke about it, and we all absolutely came to the conclusion that grief is something, and death is something that people like to just out of sight, out of mind. Out of sight, out of mind, because they don't want to think about it. They don't want to think about the reality because people are striving to have found the fountain of youth, you know what I mean, and drink out of it and try to live forever. I mean, I even heard one company sold for over $2.1 billion, and now his goal is to find a way to live forever. So it's interesting how people would rather try to
Yeah.
figure out to live forever versus trying to embrace the now and fix what you can. If you can find a way to cure thousands of diseases by investing those billions of dollars into them, I mean, that would probably be more beneficial to actually find those research and actually find a cure than trying to find a way to live forever, which is seems like a fairy tale, seems like a sci-fi show. You know what I'm saying? Like it seems unreal because
Oh,
it doesn't make you see the now. You know what I mean? Sometimes for me that I realize is that death reminds me to appreciate the life that you still have. You know what I mean? And that's what I've learned from death. I mean, for you, do you have something similar?
I don't want to live forever. I just want to make sure that in my time that we end the disease, so I don't have to have my children continue this all on. Because, but I do have fear because Michael J. Fox. I don't know if you noticed, but lately he was in a show, a concert. He played guitar with Coldplay in Glasgow, I think, or another country. And he was kind of wheelchair bound now, and that's not good because a year ago he wasn't. So when he passes, I hope he doesn't ever. Like I hope he lives forever. It's gonna crush the Parkinson's community because he's like the face of hope. So it's gonna be tough. But these are the thing. He raised over $2 billion, and that's he's not doesn't have a cure. So just
Yeah.
challenging, but you have to keep hope. You have to keep fighting, and we can't give up because if we do, then we'll be even further from the cure.
Exactly. We'll be even further. That is the truth. And this has been such a great conversation speaking about so many great topics like death, grieving, and caregiving and Parkinson's disease, and just trying to be an advocate for people, so many people who are dealing with this. So my last point I would like to ask you is what are some words of wisdom that you can leave us off with to keep on thinking? Even though you really are, you
Sure.
really already said a lot of great points, but what can be some lasting words?
First, I want to thank you again for your time and the audience. We'll share this around the world forever because it's not about just today a conversation. We have to keep sharing it until there's a cure. And by sharing it and everyone listening out there, thank you too. Please support our host, She's doing amazing things. And again, thank you for the opportunity. But I have a little message. We love you. We support you. We care a lot about you, and you're never alone. I, along with you, of course, will advocate for you. And together, I feel our voices are so much stronger. And I always say I'm just getting started because every time I meet incredible people like you and your audience, or just yesterday to somebody, it's a group, I think it's called Human Powered something, but they're actually rowing a boat across the world to raise money for Parkinson. So there's people that are just doing, somebody I know in another country is climbing Mount Kilimanjaro for Parkinson's, another one doing push-ups for Parkinson's, trying to do 1 million push-ups before he passed. Like, just incredible people, but I don't think people are aware, and that's the problem. If we can get more people aware, again, I think we'll change the world for the good forever. So I just want to thank you again, and remember, everyone, you're never alone. You can reach me at Together for Sharon. If you go to www.togetherforsharon.com, it's just me. So you're going to look at it. People think we're a big organ. We're not. It's just me. You add me on social media. I'm on every single one for some reason. Hopefully you can add me too, and I'll add you right back. But again, it's been a pleasure and honor, and I hope we can meet again sometime soon.
There you go. I like it very much. And yes, ladies and gentlemen, if you want to know more about George, I will have access to him on my website. If you're already there, just click on his under his lovely photo and you will be able to have access to his book and everything that he has to offer the world. And that's free and that's real and that's genuine. And we
Yeah.
need more people like that. And I love that you shared those experiences about that knowledge of people who are trying to advocate also for this disease because it just shows that people all around the world are affected by this, and we all are trying to put our stamp into this to know that this is not left undone. This is not left unnoticed, and that's the point. Don't leave this unnoticed. Talk about it. Express yourself about your feelings with this because if it's not heard or thought about, then how do people even know? And I would know that somebody's rowing a boat across the world for Parkinson's. Goodness, it's not. So with that being said, always, always, always keep thinking, y'all. Bye.